Welcome to the Way to Go podcast. Bill McMinn from Eagleville Bible Church. Hopefully you know that. And Steve Sargent from the Hiawatha Church of God in Christ.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be back.
Dude, I want you to acknowledge once again that I got your church name right.
You got it right. And I do want to mention this. I don't know if we ever talked about it. My church is called Hiawatha Church of God in Christ because it's on Hiawatha Avenue.
Right.
Okay. I had to explain that to someone the other day. So.
Right. No, I knew that because I asked that question. Whatever. You know, we started doing shows together in probably 2016.
Yeah. I'm
pretty sure it was whenever the big NFL controvery was. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't understand why there was this big thing, Neil. That was it. That was it. I just a lot of stuff about racism. I need to get someone from the African American community to come talk to me. And I was sitting there racking my brains. Who can I get? Who can I get? And then either someone suggested you or I thought of you. I can't remember what, because we had never met yet.
I think I appeared before you in a dream.
This probably was that. You were probably, Bill, pick me. And so then we do this show on the Bull. Remember that?
Yes.
We did this show on the Bull. And I didn't even know what you were going to say. Like, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Like, I was doing a show with this
You're
Steve
a glutton
Sargent.
for punishment.
I know. I think we did meet ahead of that. But I was thinking to myself, I don't even know this guy. Like, I have no idea what I'm going to be getting myself into. So then you became one of my favorite guys to do the radio show with. So then when we went to podcast, then I just kept having you come here. But in the radio show days, 5 years ago, that's when I was, or actually 6 years ago, I was learning that name, Hiawatha Church of God in Christ.
Yes, you got it.
I pat myself on the back every time I say it right.
You got it. Thank you. And I appreciate that.
Right. Well, you know what we're talking about today, right? Because we talked about this.
Yes.
Because we actually talk once in a while aside from this.
Yeah.
If there's anything I can pick on you about, then I'll do that.
Yeah,
like
you do.
something goes on with the Steelers. He's a big Steelers fan.
And you will say, you'll congratulate us when we had a good victory or something. You will.
Oh, yeah.
You send me a message.
Oh, yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, because we're friends. I mean, that's what friends do.
Thank you.
Right. And you lost a bet to me and you still owe me breakfast.
I know, right? I was thinking about that this morning. But every time we think about breakfast, I'm always so busy.
I know.
You eat McDonald's?
We'll get it. Yeah, McDonald's eat anywhere. I know. We'll one of these days after we do a podcast, we'll just go catch lunch or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was thinking, you and I were talking because I wanted you to come do the podcast with me anyway, which we talked about weeks ago. And then Will Smith just slaps
Chris Rock
on the Oscars. And by the way, I wouldn't have known the Oscars happened if Will Smith didn't slap Chris Rock. I think a lot of the world wouldn't have known the Oscars even happened.
I think so too. I wasn't watching it. I did hear like an advertisement that it was going to be on, but I never even thought twice about it because I don't watch it. I see one or two movies a year, and I couldn't tell you most of the actors and actresses.
Well, let me ask you, how long did it take for you to get a text about it?
Oh,
it
immediately there was all type of things popping up on my phone, and I thought at first it was a joke.
Right.
I didn't know it had really happened. It may have been the next day before I realized it actually happened, and it wasn't staged. It wasn't planned.
Somebody texted me. It was actually the next day. And I start getting texts about this, and I have no idea what they're talking about. And I'm like, what exactly is it you're talking about again? Because they're like assuming that I know or I've heard about it. I've heard nothing about it. And so then they sent me the video of it, which then I sent you the GIF of that.
Yes.
So then I sent you the GIF of Will Smith slapping Chris Rock and say, "This is how you treat me when I make fun of the Steelers." So, this is my idea. I'm sending this to Steve right now. But, you know, I don't know. I guess I had a first reaction to it, and then I've had other reactions. And to be honest, don't get upset with me or think that I'm not all that spiritual. My first reaction was good. Shouldn't have said that about his wife. Like, that was my first initial reaction as a guy. Just, why? You said something about his wife. He got up there. And he gave you a smack. He didn't punch you. He didn't deck you. He didn't knock you off your feet. He just gave you the smack on the side of your face you deserve. That's what I think.
That's your first reaction.
That was my first reaction. Okay. Yeah. What was yours?
I had really mixed feelings about it. Once I realized it was real, because I do like Will Smith, primarily from Fresh Prince. I don't know much about things he's been in lately. And I was sort of disappointed that he did that live on I mean, there's a million ways he could have retaliated. You know, it's part of the program. I suppose every year when they have him, there's jokes made about people in the audience, and you don't always necessarily know the details. Like, apparently Will's wife has a problem with her hair.
Alopecia.
Right. And I'm not saying he didn't know that, but I would presume he probably didn't know, or whoever wrote the joke. I don't know.
Well, I think he knew.
Well,
I think he definitely know. They all know each other.
but the thing is, you're an actor,
right?
and the actors act, don't they? And he's a stand-up comic, Chris. He's more famous for that than anything.
Right.
So he's going to say things that are going to be offensive to some people, even in the audience. But I don't know if he may want to rewrite his script from here on. But I thought the violence behind it, because you can't justify physically assaulting someone because they said something about your spouse or.
Oh, I can.
Yeah, you can.
I could just honestly,
if
I went and said something like he said to somebody's spouse, and they cracked me one for it, I'd say I had it coming.
Yeah,
that's what I'd say. I wouldn't, and I don't think a slap is violent. Like, I don't think this is almost like Steve. Seriously, somebody slapping somebody in the face, so violent. It would be like.
Well, I wish he would have slapped me.
It'd be
because
like
I wouldn't
this.
be here with you. I'd be rich somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. I would be. It would be like if I right now out in the parking lot backed into your car, into your fender, and did $1,000 worth of damage, and you and I are sitting there discussing what a violent accident.
Yeah,
it was like. Violent? Was it really violent? I don't know. Maybe not, because no one went to the hospital. There were no fatalities. The car's not totaled. I look at violence. Chris Rock was still on his feet.
Yeah.
He still went on with the show. There was no blood. There was no, it's not, I wouldn't consider it violent. I would consider it out of control. I would consider it in poor taste. I would consider it
sure
wasn't the right thing. I don't think it was the right thing to do, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have, if it was me, I'd have been like way backstage, unconscious, life flight landed on the roof. I would have been in a bad way.
Oh, if you got smacked like
that?
Very
bad way. Oh yes.
Well, let's see.
Yep. I would have had, instead of having a doctors and nurses looking at me, I would have a battery of attorneys around me.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to make me deals, or who can give me the best deal behind this.
That's right. You would have been, I think you would acknowledge what you said. I think one of the things that's sad in our world today is how we will hold Will Smith accountable for that. And I do agree that he should be held accountable for that. But why in the world, if you're a comedian, do you have a license to say whatever you want? Right. Especially in a day where there's hypersensitivity, you're always on people about what they say. You're not allowed to bully, right?
Correct.
So we have all this stuff. My goodness, if somebody would have said something to that about a kid like that in a school, a classmate, they'd be in the principal's office for that. But if you're a comedian, all the comedians are rallying together. Well, we're comedians. We can say whatever we want. Are you sure?
Well, you can. I guess you'd have to pay for it.
Right. Well, you did say what you want. You just got slapped for it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but I'm also suggesting that there ought to be some amount of self-control in the words that come out of people's mouths. And I think I'm one of those guys that like to be fair. If you're going to be fair and you're going to hold Will's standard to a standard of decency and say it's indecent to walk up and slap someone on national TV, which I think that the majority of America would definitely agree with that statement. That was not the right thing to do. And I know, because I've been looking at how I've been reading articles about this, knowing that we're going to do a show about it. Yes, most Americans do not agree with what Will Smith did, but I see nothing about what the guy said.
Right.
I just say, oh, it's acceptable. It's acceptable. He's a comedian. He can say whatever he wants.
Yeah, part of the problem, that Will and his wife, their whole life is basically on television or talk show or some magazine.
The red table, whatever that is.
Detail of whatever goes on with them, which is way too too graphic for me to even discuss on here. So he perhaps could have felt like their life is an open book.
Right.
And his wife has said things about their personal life I never would have said.
Right.
Oh, wait. You might have rumors and stuff out, but I never would have gotten on national TV and just broadcast your personal business like that. I know they're actors, actresses, and they're out in the limelight, but there's some things to me that are just sacred. That's not meant for everybody in the world to know.
Steve, are you suggesting they have marriage problems? Is that what you're suggesting? Because they've said on national television they've been unfaithful.
You can't go through marriage counseling on national television. Not really. You can't. So
No, I mean, I guess if you're going on the Jerry Springer show or something, yeah, I guess so. I would not do it. I would, obviously, there's a lot of things that go on in Hollywood. I would not handle it the way they handle it. I mean, there's a lot of nonsense that goes on there. And maybe you do start to forget where you're at and what you're doing. I think for Will Smith, if I was to be honestly evaluated, number one, the man apologized for it, so he thought he did something wrong. It's not like Will Smith, reasoned it out later on and 10 hours later said, I didn't, or next day said, I did nothing wrong. I think as he reasoned it out and thought about it, he said, no, I lost it, and heat of the moment, I walked up and smacked that guy, and that's the way I would evaluate it. I think that he lost control of himself at that moment. If his emotions took over, which is a big problem in America right now, we're making emotional decisions, we're reacting emotionally. He went up and slapped the guy. Yeah. Not saying he didn't have it coming, but I would have rather it been backstage. You know what I'm saying? I would have rather been, hey, meet me in the alley kind of stuff. I'd rather that.
Because we wouldn't only hear about it. We wouldn't have had to see it, especially live. Like a lot of people saw it in the other countries. They saw it live.
Dude, it's all live. They put it on YouTube. I mean, how many bazillion views does that
It's on YouTube before the commercial comes.
It's probably making YouTube a ton of money. YouTube loves this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Any media, social media, like I said, the Oscars have to really be winking at it because it's the only reason anyone's even paying attention.
Well, listen, their ratings had to go through the roof. Their ratings have been super low, at least from what I hear over the past 2 or 3 years. They had to go through the roof.
Right. And don't feel too sorry for Chris Rock, by the way, because his shows are all sold out right now. They're paying like $1,000 a ticket. They're like crowded. People are like scalping the tickets for a bunch more money just to go see him after this happens. So I think that they're all good. I think everyone there, by the way, like they used to say in basketball, no blood, no foul.
Right.
I think at the end of the day, he's just fine. And Will Smith's going to be just fine. But I'm going to say I thought it was wrong, even though I liked it, okay? Because some of the things in the flesh, I like revenge movies. I like, there's certain movies that I would never suggest, but I kind of do find myself liking when somebody, somebody kills somebody's family and a guy goes against all the bad guys. Who doesn't like that? But anyway, obviously he apologized. He was out of control. I would be embarrassed if I had behaved myself that way, to be honest with you. Like if I had lost control to the point that I crack somebody at a school board meeting, not that I go to them, but hypothetically, if I were there, I would have known, man, I'm too tired, I'm too worn out, I'm too thin, I'm too veiled.
Yeah.
There's issues in his life.
That's right. It's just like if you're under the influence of drugs or alcohol, you do or say some things that you would not have said ordinarily. And I think the rage that Will experience from what Chris said concerning his wife, it was over. It was just too much for him.
Right.
And that's why he had to get up, walk down on stage. It wasn't like he was right next to him. He had to go and, he didn't get any less mad by the time he got there.
Right. And it was a slap heard around the world, as they say. No, I look at that and, said Jesus Christ said this, turn the other cheek, right? Yeah. Chris got the chance to do that, by the way. Turn the other cheek, literally.
With the help from someone else.
Right. But it was, like I said, it was an emotional outburst. It says in Proverbs 29:11, fools give full vent to their rage, but the wise bring calm in the end. And Ecclesiastes 7:9, do not be quickly provoked in your spirit, for anger resides in a lap of fools. Because what we don't want is a nation of people, just what you pulled out in front of me, and that was offensive to me, so I'm going to go crack you one.
Right.
I don't think it's a way to respond. It's a dangerous thing because you go crack the wrong guy and decide you're going to slap some guy in the lunchroom across the face because Will Smith did it. You might be visiting the dentist the next week.
Right.
You might escalate it into like true violence. Sure. I mean, where it really does get violent, and that's the danger of it.
Yeah. Well, it was Martin Luther King who said, the Old Testament law said, an eye for an eye. And Martin said, that's Martin Luther King, not Martin Lawrence.
Right.
Martin said that if we live by the eye for an eye mentality, we all will be blind.
Right.
So we have to take the higher road.
Right.
And I know it's not easy. Listen, we're all human. I get it.
Right.
But I think Will suffered more from what he did than getting praise, or he's got greater movie deals or something. Now he's going to suffer in some way.
He will,
because of what happened.
Oh, absolutely. Like he could be a while before anyone hires him. Yeah. I mean, that's a fact.
And you hear what Chris Rock said secondarily. It's what Will Smith did first. That's the first thing you're going to hear about.
Right.
Oh, did you see what Will did? Not like, oh, did you hear what Chris Rock said?
Well, it's like in football. It's always the second guy that gets into trouble because they didn't really see what the guy
That's
did
true.
under the pile to
That's
the guy or what the guy whispered in his ear. Like you never see
He
that.
just goes berserk.
Right. And you just see the guy go berserk. You don't really know what happened beforehand. So, but it was like Myles Garrett taking his helmet and smashing.
Hey.
Clubbing.
Now, that's a very
Mason
sensitive
Rudolph.
subject. That poor, innocent little Mason Rudolph.
I know.
What did he do to deserve a helmet to the head like that?
I don't know, but when you rip a guy's helmet off his head and hit him with it, I would say that was violent.
But now, even then, they were reconciled with each other. Miles,
they like sent each other-
apologized, and like I think
they go on vacations together now. What?
when they played last year, they were like cordially talking to each other and so on. I would like to see Will Smith and Chris Rock do that.
Oh, they probably will at some point.
Yeah, at some
they'll
point. It
talk,
might take
right?
a little while just to sit down and say, hey, this isn't the way we should handle stuff.
Right.
Like, and Chris can probably say he shouldn't have said what he said, and Will can say he shouldn't have done what he done. And let's look back at it and see how could we have done this different.
I think there is such a thing as freedom of speech. I don't believe freedom of speech means there are no consequences for what you say.
That's very true.
Right. And so these guys act like there's no consequences for what you say, where to me, I live in a real world where there are consequences for what I say. That's why I stay off of politics on Facebook, because I know what's going to happen to me if I don't. I'd be very careful in what I say from the pulpit because I know what's going to happen to me if I don't. And if you're not careful, I mean, you can really deeply offend people with your words. And it says in the Bible that we should be careful. In fact, we're told in Ephesians 4:29 to say gracious words that build others up. That's what we should be saying. Proverbs 16:24, gracious words are a honeycomb. Sweet, not that I ever ate a honeycomb, but I have eaten honey. I've eaten the cereal honeycombs,
I have too.
but they didn't have honeycombs when the Bible was written. So it's the honey, it's a real legit honey that they're eating, and it's sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. And I think words can be kind. Like if you say kind words, like Will Smith, what he could have done to really make Chris Rock look bad would have been to say, hey, you know what? As soon as he said it, I just want you to know I love her. And when he got his acceptance speech, he could just sit up there and say, despite what that man said about my wife and G.I. Jane, I love my wife exactly for who she is. I think that would have been a way better way to handle that.
That's a good idea. And he knew he was going to have that, basically that opportunity to.
Right. Well, he didn't know if he's going to win. Right.
Well, that's true. I guess he did know.
But what is the irony of a guy slapping somebody and doing something that's never been done in the probably 94-year history of the Oscars? I highly doubt anyone ever cracked anyone on stage, right?
Right.
In the entire history of it. And then you win on the same day. So first slap of somebody on the Oscars right there.
But I wonder, would he have slapped him if he'd have won the award first? I don't know.
I don't know either.
The world may never know.
The world will never know. I just feel like you can't say whatever you want. That's one thing I'd like to just get across. Be careful of what you say because you really can start a riot with your words if you're not careful. And so I would definitely urge caution in the words that you say. And I don't believe that just because you're a comedian means you go scot-free in the words that you say, because there still should be consequences and things like that. Now, presidents of the United States, even that, honestly, I'll tell you privately what I think. I would never say it. I'm just not gonna say it. It's just. But I like what Denzel Washington said to him when he escorted him off stage, and Denzel Washington said, "At your highest moment, be careful. That's when the devil comes for you." So Denzel Washington, I asked you about that. I told you about it. I texted you, and you texted me this back. You said Denzel is a Kojic. Kojic. Okay, Denzel's a Kojic. Now, I'm wondering to myself, as soon as you say it, what cult is that? Like, what cult belief is Kojic? I had to literally, Steve, I should have known coming from you. I should have thought about it. I looked it up. I went online to Google. I'm like, Kojic? What's Kojic? Here, I thought that was a cool thing to say. Now I just heard he's a Kojic. It sounds like a bad thing. And so I went and looked it up, but it was Church of God in Christ.
Yes, sir.
Your denomination.
Yes.
So it's actually a good thing.
Yes.
And my heart, I'm telling you, I felt a lot better when I found out Denzel Washington was not just a cult type Kojic. He was a Church of God in Christ type Christian.
His dad was a pastor, too.
I did not know that.
Yep.
And what else?
Well, Denzel is very philanthropic. He attends the largest church we have in our denomination. It's in Los Angeles.
Okay.
They have like 25, 30,000
Wow.
members, and they're right on Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles.
Right. And
the neighborhood has been changed like you wouldn't believe because of the ministries they do there.
And a lot of that Denzel Washington is a solid Christian. Now, Denzel Washington is a solid Christian and lives out his faith, right? Now, when you were talking about your denomination, Kojic, right? Church of God in Christ.
Yes, sir.
Is there a larger denomination in the world?
Than us?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's, well, the National Baptists, the American Baptists.
Because you're a pretty big denomination.
Yeah, we are.
I mean, Church of God in Christ is pretty big.
It is.
Right? One of the larger denominations.
Yes. Our world headquarters is in Memphis, which, I'll
Right.
be at next week.
Okay.
And it started with nothing. The founder of the Church of God in Christ was probably born around slavery.
Okay.
And he had a desire to know God the way that he saw the slaves trust God.
Right.
Because his parents were slaves and whatever. And he had a just insatiable desire to know God on that level.
Okay.
And God did tremendous things in his life. I mean, he started with nothing. He was in like a chicken coop or something for their first service.
Right.
And he said, he was in Little Rock, Arkansas, and God spoke to him and said, if you name your church, Church of God in Christ, there will never be a building large enough to hold the people that'll follow you.
Really?
And there
And
is
here
none.
we are.
We have 10,000 churches.
Right.
We're in 110 countries from one guy who was probably born a slave. The Assemblies of God came into existence from him. They were the founder of the Assemblies of God was a member at his church.
Okay. That's pretty
And
interesting.
they branched out and started theirs, and actually he helped them.
Right. Now, is Church of God in Christ, and I'm not to ask an ignorant question, is that a primarily Black American?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
In America, yeah.
Okay.
Now, if you go to like other countries where we are, because we are on every continent,
Right.
you see it's much more diverse.
Okay.
And in some cities in America, it depends where you are.
Right.
It's more diverse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, I
it
thought so.
stems from the Baptists, the Bishop Charles Harrison Mason who founded it, and his great grandson is one of my great friends, and he's in charge of our churches in Guatemala. That's who I go to Guatemala with.
Right.
And his name is Charles Harrison Mason Patterson. And his church, Bishop Mason, built a church in Memphis.
Right.
A huge church back in the 40s, like around the end of World War II. It was the place Martin Luther King spoke. He made his last speech, what they call the mountaintop sermon, when he talked about his death in reality. And he was around the corner at the Lorraine Motel where Martin was assassinated.
Right. Dude, you have your history down.
I've
on
always
all
loved
these things,
history.
man. You really do. I
love
appreciate it.
I never go to a city that I've never been before, and I don't read about it. I just always been that way,
Right.
kind of like.
Well, you and I have talked before about how church is you call it the most segregated hour of the week.
Yes, Sunday.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you have your denomination,
Yeah.
and it's flourishing. Obviously, it's in every state in
every state
in America.
Right.
And I've heard a lot of them being around here. I mean, there's quite a few Church of God in Christ in Ashtabula County as well, right?
5.
5?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, that's great. So I look forward to you when you're pastor. You'd be pastor of that church. I definitely want to work with you on some things because we've been friends for a while now.
Yeah.
So I always got some idea cooking in my brain.
Oh.
Something we could do. But yeah, I think it'll be great. And the last question I have for you before we go on to the next segment: are you going to be at the Concerts of Prayer?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So we'll be together
I pick up
this
my
year.
tickets today.
So we'll be here together at Eagleville, right?
Yes,
so you'll be
sir.
at this location with us on May 6th.
Yes, sir.
At what time? We get 6:30 in the morning usually. We're
7.
The official start time 7, but it's good to be here early. So we're kind of looking forward to that.
Yeah,
so,
we have a table. So, yep, I'll be here.
good. I'll be hanging with you, man.
Cool.
I'll come find you on that day. I appreciate Steve being in here, and Steve's always a great guy to talk to. And actually, Steve, you have taught me a lot because you've answered my dumb questions at times, because I don't know. So it's like, hey, I don't know. I'm asking a question.
That's the only way you're going to know.
That's the
right?
only
You
way I
gotta
learn.
ask.
But I listen. I have learned from you, and over the years,
Appreciate it. I've
so
learned from you too.
Super. I appreciate that too.
Yes.
So thanks, brother. Appreciate you being here on the show with us. And again, keep your temper under control. Say kind words. If we stick to that, we will be well off. You guys all have a great and a blessed week.